Hey guys, welcome to our weekly news show here on Backstage with Millionaires. I'm Caleb, your host, and there's a lot of startup news to get you guys caught up on this week. So let's jump right in and start off by talking about how grocery delivery startups are delivering things now in record time. Some of these startups are delivering things in less than 45 minutes. For example, Dunzo and Swiggy's Instamart, which is something I've personally used and have been really impressed by. But there's other companies like Grofers that are aiming to deliver things now in 15 minutes. According to one of the co-founders of Grofers, Albinder Dinsa, on the 26th of July of this year, just a couple of days ago, Grofers was able to deliver 7,000 orders in 15 minutes, which is a record for them. And this is coming out of their new express delivery service, which they've been able to create using dark stores. Now, what are dark stores? They sound a little bit ominous, but basically what they are is stores that are scattered throughout the city that you're actually not able to visit on foot. These are only for delivery drivers, and they're essentially functioning as mini warehouses where food and other items that people order on a regular basis are stored, and typically they're about 15 minutes from where you live so that delivery drivers can get things to you quickly, especially if you're living in the metros. Now, Grofers is planning to expand this service to other cities, but for the time being, this kind of express delivery, which is defined as deliveries that are 45 minutes or less, is just a $300 million market here in India. But it's expected that that market is going to increase to a $5 billion market by 2025. So Grofers is very well positioned. And like I said, companies like Swiggy and Dunzo are getting into this space too, with deliveries that are happening in less than 45 minutes. And then 1MG and Big Basket are also exploring possibilities in this space as well, although they haven't been able to achieve the same speeds as companies like Grofers, Dunzo, and Swiggy Instamart. All right, next up in the news, let's talk about Zomato's performance on the stock market. You might have noticed that last week we didn't talk about this, despite the fact that Zomato had been listed at the time. And this was because we thought it was a little bit too early to talk about. We wanted to see how things went for a couple of days before reporting on it, but now it has been more than a week. So let's talk a little bit about it. As you guys probably remember, when Zomato first went public, people were buying stock at between 72 and 76 rupees a share. And this IPO was oversubscribed 38 times, which was pretty incredible for Zomato. Now, when they finally hit the stock market and became public to everybody, that same stock was being sold for 116 rupees on the National Stock Exchange and 115 rupees on the Bombay Stock Exchange, which is a 53 and 51% premium respectively. Thanks to this incredible response, Zomato has become one of India's top 50 most valuable publicly traded companies with a market cap of 1 lakh crore rupees or $13.5 billion. All right, next up, this video is sponsored by Jungle Ventures, one of Southeast Asia's oldest and biggest VC firms that has made some pretty noteworthy investments specifically into Indian startups. And this week, I wanted to highlight a video that they made about 3 of the most common mistakes that startup founders make when they're pitching their ideas to Jungle Ventures. And this happens literally every single day. So these guys definitely know what they're talking about. And here's a short clip from that video.
We've seen sometimes, especially in more complex spaces, fintech is a great example, founders, because they are so close to the problem and the solution, often dive into the nitty-gritty details, which may gloss over how attractive or interesting the market is or even how large the market is. And that's a mistake. You want to start with the basics. If the other side is well read on the topic you're covering, you can quickly gloss over them. But it's often a mistake to assume that the other side, and often, one of the team members may have a good sense, but other people on the VC side may not have a good sense. You want to bring everyone to a common understanding as you do a deep dive. Otherwise, you'll keep running into those same questions again and again.
So I personally found this video to have tons of actionable insights. And if you're an entrepreneur yourself or you're planning on starting up someday, then I think you'll find it very valuable as well. And that clip that I shared about starting with the basics, instead of getting into all the nitty-gritty details right away, is just one of the many learnings that I walked away with. So I would definitely recommend that you check this video out. It's just 8.5 minutes long, and we'll be putting a link to it in the pinned comment and the description down down below. And if you enjoy the video, then consider subscribing to Jungle Ventures' YouTube channel because they post a new video there every single week. And thanks again to Jungle Ventures for sponsoring this video. All right, on with the show. Next up in the news, it looks like Ola is going to be getting into India's used car retailing market with the launch of Ola Cars, which will be operating very similarly to companies like Spinny, where they essentially buy cars from consumers as well as from their driver partners, fix them up a little bit, and then sell them on the market. Now, as you might know, Ola is planning on going public in the near future, and so many people are speculating that this is their way of diversifying their revenue stream and reminding the public that they're not just a ride-hailing company. They have a lot of different businesses going on, and this is going to be one of them. And this is a great time to get into this space too. In the financial year of 2021, 3.8 million used cars were sold in India. But by the financial year of 2025, they're predicting that that number will go up to 8.2 million used cars, which is more than double what we're seeing now. All right, moving on to some acquisition news now. Byju's, as usual, has been very, very busy. This week alone, they spent $750 million acquiring bootstrapped upskilling platform Great Learning for $600 million and exam preparation platform Toppr for $150 million. And I should note that that news about Toppr has not yet been confirmed by Byju's. So yeah, Byju's is kind of like an edtech freight train right now. Nothing can stop them. And you might remember that just last week, we talked about how they had acquired Epic for $500 million. So in the last 2 weeks, they've spent $1.25 billion on acquisitions. Also, one more thing worth noting here is that Byju's is officially planning on going public in the next 12 to 18 months. Now, while we're on the topic of acquisitions in the edtech space, we have to talk about Unacademy's acquisition of Rheo TV, which is a video game streaming platform that Unacademy did not acquire because they plan on getting into video game streaming, and they also didn't acquire it because of the technology that the platform is built on. Instead, they acquired this startup just because of the company's founders. See, Saksham Keshri and Prakash Kumar actually used to work at Unacademy, and they were instrumental in building the startup up. But then in 2019, they decided to go off on their own and build Rheo TV. Since then, Rheo TV has managed to onboard more than 5 million users, and they have over 10,000 live streamers on their platform. But it looks like Unacademy wanted them to come back. Saksham and Prakash will be joining an Unacademy group company called Relevel, which enables job seekers to showcase their skills through a variety of tests. And this Relevel company has nothing to do with Rheo TV, by the way. Also, in other Unacademy news, they're setting up something that they're calling TSOPs, Teacher Stock Option Plans, which are very similar to ESOPs or Employee Stock Option Plans, but instead of focusing on employees, Unacademy is offering these to their educators. According to Gaurav Munjal, one of the co-founders of Unacademy, Unacademy educators will be eligible for fully vested stock grants on completion of 3, 4, and 5 years with Unacademy. According to Gaurav, more than 300 of their educators are already eligible for these plans, and over the next couple of years, they're going to be issuing TSOPs totaling $40 million. All right, moving on to some funding news now. Conversational messaging platform GupShup has raised $240 million as a part of their Series F round, which they also raised $100 million for back in April of this year. So the total for this Series F round is currently $340 million. These funds have been raised from Fidelity Management, Tiger Global, Think Investments, Malabar Investments, and Harbor Spring Capital, and GupShup is going to be using these fresh funds to expand into other mobile-first economies through inorganic growth opportunities. All right, next up in the funding news, we have India's 16th startup unicorn of 2021, online marketplace for used automobiles, Droom, and they've raised $200 million in a funding round led by 57 Stars and 7 Train Ventures at a valuation of $1.2 billion, which is a more than 2x increase from their 2018 valuation of $500 million. Now, this funding round is being referred to as a pre-IPO growth round, as Droom is planning on going public in 2022, although they're not sure yet whether they want to go public in India or in the United States. Now, I mentioned earlier that Droom is an online marketplace for used automobiles, but that was a bit of an oversimplification. You can also find motorcycles on their platform and even airplanes. And in 2020, they saw a net revenue of $54 million, but they're expecting that number to go up to $65 million in 2021. Also, one more thing to note here before we move on to the next funding news item is that according to a statement from the startup, with the current scale, technology-oriented business, and operational efficiency, Droom is nearing profitability. So this could make their IPO a very attractive opportunity for the public. All right, next up in the funding news, Mohala Tech, the parent company of Indian language social media platform Sharechat and short video app Moj, has raised $145 million in a funding round led by Temasek Holdings and More Strategic Ventures at a valuation of $2.88 billion, which is an increase from their $2.1 billion valuation back in April. They're going to be using these fresh funds to continue growing their user base on both of these platforms, as well as improving the technology behind these platforms to give their users a better experience. All right, that is all the startup news that I have for you guys this week. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, and I'm assuming that you did because you made it this far, then it would mean a lot to us if you could hit the like button. And if you haven't already subscribed, now would be a great time to do so because we post new videos every single week about Indian startups, entrepreneurs, and the latest news. Also, big thanks to all of our Backstage with Millionaires members. There's more of you guys showing up every single week, which is really exciting for us to see, just knowing that there's people out there that are excited to financially support what we're doing. When we first started the membership program, it was a bit of a slow start, but I think now it's almost like a snowball, right? It starts small, but then it starts to gain momentum, and that's really cool. So thanks again to our unicorns, our decacorns, and our hectacorns. We have a new hectacorn, Nikhil. Thank you so much for believing in what we're doing here at Backstage with Millionaires, for your very generous financial support, and I look forward to adding you to the conference call that we're having with the Hectacorn members. Now, even if you're watching this and you can't afford to financially support us here at Backstage with Millionaires, that is perfectly okay. Just the fact that you've made it this far in the video is plenty of help. And hey, if you made it this far in the video, then leave a comment down below so that I can thank you personally for watching this episode of Backstage with Millionaires. All right, I will see you guys in the next one.